Have you maybe been through a traumatic event recently or in the past? Well, today I wanted to share my perspective on my trauma, my traumatic events with you today and how I've worked through some of this and continue to work through these. And if you stay until the end, I have an extra point for you then as well. Before we dive in, just want to mention that if you want to connect with me more or follow more of my content, you can find me on social media, and I've linked that in the show notes below, or just type in Johnny Pardo into most social media platforms. Okay, before we begin into this episode, just want to mention also, be very, very clear. I'm not a mental health professional. I am a man on a mission to share my mental health journey, men's mental health journey, my men's growth journey as well. And if you've got severe trauma that's life impacting, or things like PTSD, please go and get the relevant help you need, right? I'm not a mental health professional. I'm just sharing my own journeys on my men's mental health journey and my growth as well. So I'm just talking about my experience here. And sometimes I've been like, well, that wasn't that big. I should just get over it. Yeah, that's not what was going on inside of my body. It was like fight or flight. Splitting up with someone or losing a job or having a financial setback or, of course, losing someone you love are very traumatic things. And even things like being shouted at by someone, getting intense criticism, those are traumatic things. And the thing is, and I've particularly noticed this as men, that we like play them down because we want to be, there's certain like stigmas I found of like, right, got to be tough, got to move through. And whilst I'm all for growth and moving forward, I do that. I always like set goals, set targets, I'm moving forward. There also needs for me to be an element of feeling and therefore healing things, traumatic events, and not dismissing how I'm feeling. It's really important because it limits my growth as well. And actually, we've got different genders on this planet, and different genders may or may not handle it differently. But I know I've spoken to many men that's just like, well, it didn't work out of her. She cheated on me. Now I'm getting on with my life. I've even seen that with close friends. Like, oh, well, I've had a falling out with so-and-so, or I got dumped and shouted at, or they would be like, well, I've lost a family member and, I'm just trying to think positive and move on. And it's really sad to see men dismissing their emotions and feeling into what they need to. Now, again, I'm just sharing my own guidance. I can't tell anyone what to do, right? I'm just sharing my examples. And if you want to take on some of my guidance or learn or hear my experience and maybe use some of it, please feel free to do that. But from my perspective, that's really damaging. It's like abandoning a small child when I'm just like, well, it didn't matter. I'll just get on with my life. It's like you've got a kid. I haven't got any kids, but it'd be like you've got a kid or maybe the 3-year-old version of yourself, and they're like, I'm really upset. That was really traumatic. Well, shut up and get on with it. Let's just get on with life and think positive, right? That's, for me, I'm very passionate about that. That's just not healthy. And you're doing that to yourself, I believe, if you don't take in and feel what you need to. And again, it's not about like feeling down all the time or crying it out every single day and staying in bed. There's a point where I've needed to take action and move forward. There's some times where I'm going to need more time to rest because I've only just come off a situation when it's like not worked out, maybe in a dating or relationship situation. I'm going to have less energy because I'm going to be working through that. When I've lost someone, like death, I'm going to need to feel that, right? I've been mugged before. Like I needed to really process that. Not too badly, fortunately. But it's still quite traumatic. It was like someone just came up and, mugged me. It was at the time as well, I just dismissed it and I was like, that doesn't matter. I'm going to get on. I've got to sort all the things out. And I just got back to life and I didn't feel it. It lives in the body and it's always there until we address it, until we heal, I found. And I'm currently training as a somatic breathwork practitioner. And part of that is feeling into the body. That's why I love the work. It's so important that we feel into the body because there's so much stored there. Stress is a killer. There's like people die of heart attacks. And that can be from just not looking at these emotions. Health issues are often caused from, there's a lot of studies connected to this stuff, caused from like unresolved emotions we got stored in the body. So it's really important that traumatic things are looked at. Now, again, if you really are challenged with like things like you hear people coming back from like war, and of course it's going to be really traumatic. That's PTSD, things like that happen, post-traumatic stress disorder. And that's when people go and seek professional help. And again, if you're going through something really intense, I'd highly recommend finding a mental health professional. But again, like just going through day to day, if you're like, oh, that person like was mean to me or shouted at me and it really hurt, but it doesn't matter, I better get on with it and man up. That for me is just not healthy. It's not about feel how you need to feel into it, right? You can move forward with your life at your own pace, but it's about feeling into it, I personally believe. So here's my guidance for you on this. I've shared a bit already, but I just want to give you a few points. The first thing is getting support to work through things. I'm always going to have a coach because there's always going to be things that are in the back of my mind. Even like working a sales role, sometimes I've had quite like aggressive people. Like it's not because I might ask them a tough question or they've forgotten what the call they booked in was. I don't do cold calling or anything like that. But even that can sort of hurt my feelings a little bit. Not as bad as it used to and doesn't like link to my worth or anything. But if like someone was to shout and scream at me, which rarely ever happens, then I'd want to work through it. And having a coach or someone by your side you can talk to is really helpful. So that's what I recommend, having someone you can talk through things with. The second thing, try not to just intellectualize like traumatic things and actually feel into it. I used to be like, right, I feel like this. I feel really sad because that must have happened when I was 3, and that happened when I was 7, and that happened when I was 11 years old. And for those few years in my late teenage years, that. No, just feel into the body, because I've often found the body reveals what needs to be seen. So instead of trying to intellectualize with the mind, feel into the body. Like, where is that trauma stored in the body? Is it in the chest, or a common one? Is it in your stomach? Where is it? Right? Feeling into it. And then the third one, breath work. Absolute game changer for me. I'd recommend you check out somatic breath work and really experience that for yourself as well. Final thing I want to share, just for that though, I want to mention that if you want to keep up to date with all my content and connect with me more, you can find me on social media, linked in the show notes below, or just type in Johnny Pardoe into social media. The final thing, it's just really a quote I want to share with you. Look at the roots and grow the fruits. And what that means is that's something my mentor taught me, because sometimes I've seen it on both scales, right? And again, it depends where you are, and that's why it's really important to get external support. I feel for me anyway. It's just not being caught extreme on either side. You could be feeling into like something really traumatic for ages and ages, and people do that like years, and they don't move forward, or they limit themselves in life because they're like feeling it every day. And whilst feeling it is important, they just don't move forward. And then there's the other side where you just ignore and then things get stored away and then one day they all creep up on you. But you just keep focusing on achieving. And that was basically me. And you're not feeling into the emotions. So looking at the roots whilst picking the fruits is a really important one. So it's not about having like 50-50 split either. It's about feeling what you need, right? If you've just gone through a job loss, a breakup, a financial challenge, like obviously if a financial challenge, you're probably gonna have to take action whilst you're feeling into it. But yeah, like for example, feeling into it, or let's go to like dating, right? You probably wouldn't go like maybe you split up from a long-term relationship. You probably wouldn't want to go on. I mean, some people do, but you probably wouldn't want to go on a date the next week, right, with someone. There'll probably be a period where you're feeling into it. You need to flush out some of these things out of your system. And then maybe a couple of months later, you consider the idea of dating. Like, I'm not going to put a timescale on it. It has to be for you, right? This is just an example. Maybe and likewise, if you've lost someone you love in your life, like someone's died, and you were doing a lot in your life, you were doing a lot in the community, you're doing a lot of activities that you want to do. It's not like, right, okay, they died, let's get on with my life, right? There's going to be a period at the start where it's going to be stronger and you're going to feel it a lot more and you're going to really be limited and moving forward. But then over time, you start to be able to do more of your activities whilst feeling it, right? And obviously when people lose someone, it's easy for the rest of their life. They'll remember if they're really close and special to them, of course. But over time, you're able to do more of the things you did before, right? So that's what I would say, right? Don't be caught on one extreme or the other. You're gonna be needing more of feeling into something or moving forward at different periods. But that's my final guidance on trauma. And again, just to really emphasize the point as well, if you've got serious trauma that's really impacting you every single day, please do speak to a professional and a mental health professional, of course. So that's what I got for you today. I appreciate you for being here. You're improving other people in your life by working yourself as a man. And remember, lead with your heart, not with fear.